of course, is the son of immigrants from Poland. He's talked about his history. His father's family mostly dying from the Holocaust, so immigration is obviously dear to his heart. Grew up in Brooklyn in a community that was mostly immigrants, Jewish immigrants at the time. A quote from Bernie, which I think really kind of sums it up a little bit. Today, millions of decent, hardworking people live in America with no hope of gaining the status to live and work here legally. Many were brought here in their youth, and others came to find a life free of fear, oppression, war, or deprivation. We need a rational immigration process with a path to citizenship, not the Republican alternative of self-deportation. Bernie believes in a just immigration system. He also has said that as American people, that instead of demonizing the undocumented immigrants in this country, he is going to work to pass comprehensive immigration reform and provide a path towards citizenship. It's going to provide legal status to the 1.8 million young people eligible for the DACA program and develop a humane border policy for those who seek asylum. He has come out strongly against the separation of children from their parents, and he's a force to be reckoned with in that regard. He's obviously has come out against Trump, the ICE, and the entire immigration policy as being inhumane. In his issues and how he wants to attain that, he does want to enact comprehensive immigration reform, including a path towards citizenship. He wants to expand DACA and DAPA, including providing immediate legal status for young people eligible for the DACA program and developing a humane policy for those seeking asylum. He wants to reshape and reform the immigration enforcement system, including fundamentally restructuring ICE, and that's an agency that Sanders voted against creating. He wants to end the practice of family separation and detention and putting children in cages. He wants to dismantle the cruel and inhumane deportation programs and detention centers. He also wants to establish standards for independent oversight of relevant agencies within DHS. He does support children entering for asylum from war-torn areas. His focus is on policy on bringing families together, not deportation. He voted, in 2007, he voted against slavery-like guest worker programs. He supports a path to citizenship for migrants and undocumented people and comprehensive reform with no border fence and no guest workers. He does believe that also that our visa system must protect American jobs instead of simply allowing corporations to score cheap labor via temporary work visas. He wants secure borders without building a fence. And he does incorporate the visa system with American workers and against trade agreements such as NAFTA, which is something that he also was dead set against. And that has led to a horrible situation with especially Mexican workers having to come over to this country because their work has been diminished because of corporate greed in Mexico.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. Don't go anywhere because on the next issue, I'm going to have Lauren Liddell lead off talking about climate issue.
There's two things about Bernie Sanders being, representing Bernie Sanders here. He has been in politics for over 30 years. He has a huge track record. There's a ton of information on what Bernie Sanders has done in the past. So that's the good thing. The bad thing is that there's a ton of information Bernie Sanders has done in the past. So to narrow it down for 2 minutes is really, really challenging, but I'll do my best. Again, I'm going to start with a quote from Bernie. The scientific community is telling us that if we do not address the global crisis of climate change, transform our energy system away from fossil fuels to sustainable energy, the planet that we're going to be leaving our kids and our grandchildren may well not be habitable. This is a major crisis. Climate change is a moral issue. I want to give credit to Janine Culkin for sharing that quote with me. She was also asked to be part of this panel, but she was unable to attend. Bernie's climate change policy is by far the most comprehensive thought out and specific policy ever. He's written his own Green New Deal. This is not the same as the Green New Deal resolution. There is no universal basic income offering. Instead, he wants to create 10 million jobs. And I definitely encourage everybody to review his Green New Deal. It is 35 pages long. It covers every topic possible and kind of connects the dots between immigration, climate change, between migration, between the corporate greed. Every issue is kind of incorporated into the climate change aspect of his policies. Some of the highlights that he would, if Bernie Sanders does become president in 2020, one of the big things, of course, is he is one of the few candidates out there who has categorically come out against fracking. His motto is keep it in the ground. And he's one of the few candidates that constantly talk about that as being a moral issue. We can't keep drilling, we can't keep fracking and expect our climate to improve in this country or throughout the world. He has declared climate change an existential threat to not only this country but to the entire world. And he would declare climate change a national emergency. He supports small farms by investing in ecologically regenerative and sustainable agriculture. He's for justice for frontline communities. That's a huge part of his Green New Deal on the environment, is to make sure that people that are suffering the most from environmental racism has a say in how their communities will get to respond to climate change and what actions are needed to take. He wants to invest in conservation and public lands to heal our soils, forests, and prairie lands. He has obviously been working a lot with the Indigenous community to make sure that, again, that they have a say. They're the protectors of water, they're the protectors of earth, and he understands that it's critical for them to be part of the narrative of how we go forward and stop climate change, or at least keep our existence moving on.